Thank you. Thank you for the nice intro and hyping up my talk. And it's all true. It's all true. AI agents are here, and they have been around for a while now. I mean, if you have been following closely, you probably have seen a few flops. I mean, we had Devin, I think, that happened not long ago, that was supposed to replace software engineers. Do you remember Devin? No? Okay, check it out because it's a fun story. Okay, so I'm gonna be talking about a little bit more how Google Gemini and all of the new models that Google has been working on. Just this week, we had Google I/O, which is the year event from Google, where they announced a lot of products, a lot of interesting things. So I'm gonna try to cover a little bit of everything. Probably you are not regular users of Google AI, so I'm going to try to bring you up to speed to what's available from Google and Gemini. So first of all, I'm originally from Barcelona. This is my name, the most important thing of the talk, so you can follow me, increase my clout. Nobody knows me in AI. I'm basically a front-end developer. I've done cloud, but in AI, I'm nobody. So remember my name. I'm not French. I'm from Barcelona. This is Gerard Sans, and I met some people from Catalonia here, so I'm pretty excited about this. I'm a Google developer expert, and just a few weeks ago, I got what is called the Generative AI badge. So now I'm officially a Google developer expert in AI, whatever that means. And yeah, so, in this picture, I was, this is a keynote I did at a conference in Montreal, Conf. I don't know if you are familiar with it, but yeah, I started the conference, and the question that I posed to the audience is, what if an AI could do your job? And you can see the laughs there. I'm not sure, I mean, some people is not laughing anymore. I've been doing this for a while, so you can see, I mean, if it's the time to brag, this is my moment. So I've done 203 talks. Can you believe that? And I've traveled to 43 countries. I've been busy the last few years. Okay, so let's start with Google I/O. This was exactly this week, so it's very hot. And one of the projects that are now announced in social media, maybe you have seen a glimpse of this, is this new AI assistant, which comes very close to the announcement that OpenAI did on Monday. It's kind of a guerrilla marketing from Google, and it's called Project Astra. Here, what you can see is someone with their mobile phone and just pointing, like in a live stream, and as they are also pointing with this arrow, they are pointing to this speaker and asking what is the name for that little component on a speaker. I don't know if any in the audience knows what's that called.
Maybe. Something tweets.
Tweet something, Twitter. So Gemini answered correctly, so that's excellent. Of course, who doesn't want to show Gemini your code from your screen and ask Gemini, what is this about? And they tested that out, I don't know why. And they also tested some other funny things. They asked Gemini, give me a name for this couple of, the dog and this toy, and Gemini replied, I mean, if I was an AI, I wouldn't be used like this. This is a little bit embarrassing. But yeah, this is Project Astra. And there were a few more announcements. And as you know, Google has been trying to catch up with everything that is going on in the space. And just this Tuesday, they announced Google Veo. Veo is the Spanish word for to see, I see. So this is how far they go with the names. And here we can see this is a high definition video just coming out from this prompt. I'm not sure. I know that after a few demos, you kind of lose all the hype about these things, but it's pretty impressive, I would say. What do you think? So this is the answer for OpenAI Sora, text to video. Okay, maybe a little announcement that was maybe behind the many announcements that happened this week. It's a new version for Imagen. And you can see that the quality of the images are quite impressive, I would say, from what we have seen over the different versions. And this is also the prompt that they used. Then, of course, just a couple of months ago, Google entered the open source arena. And they kick off the first open source model with Gemma. This week, they released 2 models. They announced Gemma 2, and they also released the first multimodal vision, open source vision model, which is called Pali Gemma. They have released a few specific models. There's also a code Gemma, and I would just check it out if you are working on open source. I'm going to use this opportunity to give you a little bit of an overview of what tools you have available in Google. And the first one will be Gemini chatbot. This will be the same as ChatGPT. So if you haven't tried, I would recommend you to give it a try. Then, once you are used and you are familiar with this Gemini chatbot, I would recommend you, if you want to start building any solutions using Gemini, I would recommend you to go and try Google I/O AI Studio. So this is the playground where you can test different prompts and also use the 1 million context that was just released with Google Gemini Pro 1.5. And then, of course, if you get serious into developing a solution, I would then, after that, I would go into Google Cloud. And then there's this managed service called Vertex AI, where you can create your models, train them, and create a machine learning pipeline from scratch. All right. Maybe you missed this. This is not from Google I/O. This is from Google Next that happened a few weeks ago. And this is Code Assist. This is the same as GitHub Copilot. So now Google has a similar tool. It will work like you can see here. You have a chat window on the left, and then you have your project on the main screen, and you can even build your project or do different things around that. If you want to deploy this project in the Google Cloud, that you can also run from this environment. A little bit of a timeline here. I'm not sure how many of you are deep into generative AI. How many of you have been doing generative AI for 3 years? 2 years? 1 year? Last 6 months? Last week? Just started today? Oh, so you're in the wrong conference? I mean, you are very shy. Nobody raised their hands, just for the video on YouTube that you are watching, maybe. Okay, so we started in the early days with just generative AI around text and code. That was a long time ago. I think that was maybe 2020, 2021. Then we went into chat. After a little bit of fine-tuning, we got into chat. I'm just showing all the models, even if they are contemporary. Usually, I would say follow what OpenAI did. But then, of course, we have open source models that are now following these generations. So they are coming a little bit later in time, just from the last year. And then, of course, after chat, we get also a few models that they will use a mixture of experts, and this gives you a little bit higher quality, and that opens the door also to AI agents. If you try to use AI agents with the first generation of models, you probably are going to get nowhere. And maybe if you're using the models that only have chat, they are maybe barely able to do anything meaningful with AI agents or external tools. So I would start with any model that you can read that is using a mixture of experts. Then, of course, we got to the last generation, and this is the one we are living now, which is multimodal LLMs. And these ones are a few examples, and you can see that the last model from GPT-4 Omni, I think, Omni version is there. And that's why you can get images, video, audio, and so on. Just to give you an overview, because not every model you can use AI agents. It will just fail. So you need to make sure that you understand this evolution, which give you more features and capabilities. Just this week, they announced a new model, Gemini Flash. This is just out of the oven, and it's just faster and uses less resources, so it's cheaper to operate. And we have a new model from Gemma, which is the first multimodal version of the model. So the previous ones were just either text or chat. Okay, we cannot do a talk these days without talking about responsible AI. And if you are starting building solutions, that's something that if you are building using Google technology, you need to be aware that not any application will be allowed. For example, if you are hosting your application in Google Cloud, they will make sure that you are following these principles and obviously not doing any harm or using your AI for anything that is not lawful.
All right.
Okay. How are you doing after lunch? You're feeling relaxed?
Good.
So what is an AI agent? Who knows the answer to this question? How many of you are already familiar with this concept? Okay. Yes, okay, very good. So here, the most simple example is Gemini chatbot. Gemini chatbot is a perfect example of an AI agent that you can go and try today. And what it means that it's a generative model that can access tools and external APIs. That's basically it. So Gemini, when you do a request or when you enter a prompt, in the chat input, it will decide if it needs to do a Google search. Or it will use maybe a calculator. Or if it needs to run some Python code, it will instantiate a Python sandbox and it will run some code and show you the results. Pretty cool. So how it works behind the scenes? I mean, this is all kind of hypothetical architecture just to understand what's going on, just the fundamentals. So you could use LangChain, and here LangChain will make the connection between the LLM and the different tools. And of course, you have the user in one side, then you have a query, and depending on whatever the query requires, the model will make a decision of which tool it's going to use. Some of the tools are very simple. You have access to the chat history or maybe some external memory. Maybe we have calculation. Obviously, some of the calculations may be too complex for the model to solve, so it's going to use an external calculator, which is basically just some Python code that does the operation. Maybe it needs to do a Google search. Sometimes when we want to know about, for example, what happened in Google I/O, if you go to Gemini chatbot, you can ask, where were the main announcements this week for Google I/O? You can ask Gemini chatbot, and it will do an internal Google search and then summarize the results for you. So that's what is happening behind the scenes. Sometimes you want a graph, you want a plot from some function. You can ask Gemini to plot that using Python, and it will render it for you. And if you want, you can also check the code and maybe put it on an external tool to keep working on it. So these are a few features that you have available, and that was just a little taste. I'm going to show you in a little bit more detail what you can do. There has been many updates, so just to make sure that you are up to date. So here, there are some of the features. This is Gemini, the chatbot, which you can use for free. And here we can see that we can do image generation. We can do, of course, Google search. This is maybe not as much known by people. You can also access what is called the Google Knowledge Graph. When you do any searches, on the right side, you will see some metadata. Depending on the topic that you are searching, you will see some information that appears on the right. That's the result of a query to the Google Knowledge Graph. That's been around for more than 10 years, but maybe if you are not in the Google sphere, you may have missed that. Then, of course, we have access to a Python sandbox. That means that we can instantiate a sandbox, run some code, and then take the results so we can give them back to the user. And of course, we have access to some session memory, so we can answer the questions in a coherent form. Some examples very quickly. This is a prompt that I use, create an image of a dog riding a surfboard. This is from Imagen 2. Then you can, of course, run queries using images. So you can input an image, and Gemini will look for what kind of butterfly that is, and also using some other technologies like Google Lens that you have in your Android phones. If you want to do code, it can also do code, and it has this Python sandbox, so you can actually run the code from the chat. And if you want to take that into an external editor, you can also do it. Some other fun things is that if you are doing some analysis, you can render or plot a function right there, and it looks quite good. And some other things that they added recently is what is called Gemini extensions. So there's a suite of different options. At the top, you can fact check when you are asking Gemini. If you are not sure that the output is trustful, you can click on the Google icon, and it will go and try to fact check the response. More interestingly, you have access now to Google Drive, Google Maps, Google Hotels, Google Flights, and also your Gmail account. If you watch a lot of YouTube videos from technical talks or some other things, you can now also integrate those and ask for transcripts or summaries. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples. So here, once I give access to Gemini chatbot, I can just use @Gmail, and I can ask for information for a conference. Imagine I'm doing a talk. Here, I had a talk in Indonesia, near Jakarta, and I wanted to know a few details of when was my talk, who was the person of contact, things like that. And then Gemini would look into all of my different emails and gather that information for me. Then another example, if you like to follow what is happening in AI, you probably see a lot of these videos that happen, or maybe there's a new release and you don't want to go through an hour video. You can do the same. You can say, okay, summarize. You copy the URL, and then you just need to add YouTube. And that will give you a taste. Here, there was a new version of Angular, which I follow, and then I just wanted a summary of that. Okay, we are in business. So let me just give you a little taste of this managed service in Google Cloud. And this is global access. Sometimes some of the tools are not accessible from every country, and maybe you will get annoyed from that. But if you are using Vertex, you can use it from any country in the world. So here I'm showing you the model garden. Right now, there's access to more than 130 open source and closed source models. Some of the models from Google, of course, and some other coming from the open source community. And from here, you can do anything. You can create your model from scratch, train it, and then go through the different stages until you can release your product. Just this week, they announced a service where you can manage your agents. So what that means? It means that you don't need to build anything. You can just hook up the Gemini version that you want to use. You can add external APIs. You can include different tools. The tools that you have available today, there's Google Search. There's also an extension for Retrieval Augmented Generation. All of the options that you would want for an AI agent. And you can do it from this UI without having to develop anything. So that's pretty cool. OK. What? As you can see, I like to add these memes. This is part of my my style. I don't know if you like it. I love it. It's just a little bit of nonsense. OK, so Gemini. Let's look into the different ways that you can use Gemini foundational models. There's two ways, basically. You can use Gemini models from Google AI. This is a slightly dumbed down version of it. And then you have the professional one, which is Vertex AI. If you want to use like the whole suite, you need to go to Vertex AI. If you just want to use like a couple of models just to start, you can use Google AI. So these are all of the models that we have right now. We started back in December with Gemini Ultra, Gemini Pro 1.0, and Nano 1.0. And then after a while, we got Gemini Pro 1.5 with a million context window, million tokens context window. And then just this week, we got Flash 1.5. So this is kind of an overview of what you can use. So what is the architecture behind Gemini 1.5? It's using a transformer. This is a multimodal architecture. It's now able to take text, code, audio, images, and video, and you can mix them interleave. So you can create any combination of these different formats. Right now, we only have, as an output, we have text. So we don't have the image decoder yet, but that's in the plans. So you can expect that Gemini models will be able to generate images without using an external model, a separate model. So what brought Gemini 1.5 was this new 1 million tokens. They tested up to 10 million tokens, so we can expect at some point that Google Gemini models will reach 10 million. But right now, with 1 million, you can have access to it, and you had 1 hour of video, which is any of the talks from this conference. You can use Gemini and use it as the input. So that's great news. You can use any podcast up to 11 hours. And probably more interested for developers is that you can use code bases up to 30,000 lines of code, which is awesome. For documents or books, you can use up to 800 pages. So what that means, I mean, all these numbers, maybe you don't have a clear idea. That means that you can take something like 3JS codebase for demos, which is almost 1 million tokens, and then do a query. Here, what you can see, the small bit is the prompt. The input is all of the code base for 3JS demos. Then you can, in this example, they use a screenshot from one of the demos that they forgot which of the many available was. Gemini found the demo, and then from that same prompt, they asked Gemini to add and change the demo to add a couple of sliders to see this 3D model and changing the size and other things. It was pretty cool demo. I would recommend you to watch it. So what that means for us as developers, right now with 1 million tokens context window, that means that we can be maintainers of jQuery. We can put the whole code base for jQuery in our prompts. And then we still have 800,000 more tokens to reiterate or maybe refactor the code or add new features, make it shine. We can also use Axios. I don't know if any of you are using Axios. This is a HTTP library, so that's pretty much up to the top of 1 million. And then if you use something a bit larger like Angular, that's a little bit out of reach. This is now 80 million tokens, so there's no way you can use any LLM to work with Angular, unfortunately. But one thing that I tried is I took HTTP client, which is a little bit around 200,000, and then I could refactor. And one of my experiments, I asked Gemini to use Axios to modernize the HTTP client from Angular, which was able to do. Maybe not a good thing. And one thing that these million tokens context give you is that it's very cost effective. One of the problems when we are using other solutions is that we may go over budget. And we are building these external systems. I'm talking about Retrieval Augmented Generation that may be not so cheap to build. And with Gemini, we just need to take the information that we need and run our queries. So that could be much cheaper. You have more control because you can decide what information you want to use. If that information is not useful, you can remove it and replace it. So that gives you more control. That's a little bit more interpretable. I'm a software engineer, and I like to be able to debug what's happening if something is going wrong. And if you're using a system like RAG, you cannot debug it. You are giving the full responsibility of whatever comes out, and if something goes wrong, there's no way to debug it. If I'm using my own prompt with a massive 1 million tokens, I can decide what is in that prompt. And then, of course, it's self-contained. So I don't get into some problems like fragmentation or relevant drift. Some things you can do, crazy things. This is a new language called Calamang. I didn't know about it, don't worry. And then you have just in your input with 250,000 tokens, you can get the Calamang grammar book. So you just have like a grammar book for Calamang. Then you have a dictionary from English to Calamang. You can add that to your prompt, and somehow Gemini is able to be a translator of that language that has never seen before, which is completely bananas in my mind. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So this was tested with some of the few native speakers of this language, and it was correct, apparently. There's no way to check. I'm sorry. But yeah, this is more or less my reaction to this. And I know that it's a little bit difficult to wrap your head around context. Like, what is context, Gerard? Why are you talking about this 1 million token context? And because I got a lot of questions, I tried to dumb it down like very, very to the minimum. And I come up with this story, which I don't know if you are familiar with The Simpsons. And you remember this episode, which is from Halloween. And they do, for Halloween every year, they do a specific theme episode. And it's around the treehouse of horror, this one. And they are abducted by Kang and Kodos. And somehow Lisa finds a book, a cooking book. And Lisa is really scared because the book says in the cover, how to cook humans. And that's, of course, nothing that you want to see when you are abducted by, by extraterrestrials. So, yeah, the extraterrestrial just blows because it's an old book, so it blows, and it just shows that it's actually not that, so it's how to cook for humans. So it's nothing to be worried about. Then Lisa insists, and then it's just finding out that it's actually how to cook 40 humans. Like, what is going on? But no, we go back to the extraterrestrial. It's like, look, it's how to cook for 40 humans. So let's look back to this. Yeah, context is very important. Every word counts. How to cook humans can be very scary, but not so much when you reveal what? More context. So having context is really important. And when you have 1 million tokens context, you can bring the information that you deem important. Okay, I hope it was enough to bring that concept. So now I'm going to cover AI Studio. So AI Studio is where you go into the playground and test the different models and prompts. And it looks something like this. So you can have a collection of all of your prompts. For now, we have test and chat. And you can see here, you can choose the model, change some of the configurations, and test whatever it is that you want to build. So nothing too crazy. One thing that I try to do to demonstrate this 1 million context window is creating a poem using Alice in Wonderland book. So I took all of the books from this author, and I put them almost reaching 1 million. I mean, 1 million is not that easy to fill. And even taking 17 books, it wasn't enough, but this is the result. I don't know if you can see it. It's pretty much perfect. So yeah, these are some of the things that you can do with Gemini and 1 million context window. Happy dance. All right. So let's go into a little bit deeper into what would be an autonomous AI agent. So we have seen like the vanilla one, which will be the best example, the Gemini chatbot. Let's see how that works. The architecture may change. This is just to give you a feeling of how that will work. You will start with some goals and rules that your autonomous agent will follow. Then you will start by creating a task, and that task will go into a queue, and it will be executed over time as the tasks are being done. Of course, you need someone managing this execution, and you will also have access to memory. What was the result of the previous steps? So then the execution agent will access some of the tools, could be Google Search or some other tools that you have access to, maybe some internal APIs. That will finish the task. You will store the result and keep going. Nothing too fancy. How the prompt works for these systems? Of course, you cannot use a vanilla prompt. That will not work. This is an example that I use from a paper, and you get the answer from the training data. So that's not going to work for some of the questions. If you are incrementing a little bit of the complexity of your prompt using chain of thought, you can get a little better option by making the model think step by step. That will trigger the model to give more output, and that output can be used to generate a better option, a better output. This is also not the solution, so we need to use some other technique. There's another thing that we can do is execute an external tool, and of course that means you can run a Google search, you can run access to an external API to get that information that we didn't have access to. And here in this last example, we get access to another answer from looking up at Carlo Robelli, the author of this book. It's also not the right answer. We need to use another framework, which is this React. That means that you are going to go through a thought, an action, and an observation. And here you can see how that develops. We do a search. From that search, we do yet another search. And then finally, we find access to the bit of information that we wanted. That's a little bit abstract, so I have a demo to show you. And let's see, I mean, it's dangerous to do a demo, a live demo. And of course, I want to create an uphill conf agent for you. And let's see, I didn't try this demo, I tried another one, but this one is to learn, this is the goal, learn 5 peculiar facts about uphill conf 2024. It could be about the location, the venue, or when was the first edition. Are you curious? Do you want to know? I'm going to use it like a research tool. So let's see how that works. Let's see the tools. So for this agent, I'm going to use the search. I can also use a model to generate an image, or it could also be creating some code. I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to use the search. And let's give it a go. So the first thing that happens is the agent is going to create the tasks. If you remember from the diagram that I showed you before, the first thing is we need a goal. Once we set up the goal, it's going to create some tasks that are going to be queued, and then the scheduler is going to take one task and execute the task, get the results, store the results, etc., etc. So that's the first step right there. It's going to do a search and then find the information from different details. Then we can see the first execution from the search, and we can see that 5 peculiar facts. The first thing is the location, and of course we have seen that this is hosted at the Garten Berg Station. Okay. The date, we know the date, we are here. And then we know the topic, etc., etc. So the first edition, this is the first edition. I don't know if you knew about this conference. It has changed the name over time. It's quite interesting. And yeah, just to show you the different tasks were executed here. These are the tasks that the agent found out that had to execute. And then as it was executing them, they were cleared out. At the end, we can get a summary of these different peculiar details. But of course, because this is a free version, I ran out of credits anyway. But here, just to show you that you can also chat. So what was the most peculiar? So you can still have a conversation because it's still... So the most peculiar information is that it's focused on applied AI. All right, what do you think? I mean, it's not that much peculiar, is it? But okay, so that's a feel of a system live. And yeah, I hope I have inspired you today. Thank you for listening.